Hello, listeners. I'm the Bedtime Storyteller, and I hope that these series of stories will bring you peace before bedtime and make you sleep better. The following story, I hope, can help you calm down from the fatigue of the day and fall asleep peacefully. Then let's start the story of The Candle in the Tomb, Season 1, Episode 9, tonight. The mountain crevice we fell into was narrow and deep. It was pitch black outside the range of the flashlight. Due to limited visibility, we didn't know what the terrain was in the distance. The big guy used his hand to feel Logan's breath, shook his hand, and said, "It's over, it's gone." I crawled over and felt Logan's carotid artery. He was indeed dead. His heartbeat had stopped. So I sighed and said to the big guy, "Let's bury Logan." I took out the engineer's shovel and wanted to dig a hole. Trevor stopped me and pointed to the ground. Bugs, fire. Trevor's reminder reminded me that in the valley we wanted to dig a hole to bury the engineer who fell to death, but we dug out a devil-like ladybug. There were a total of 14 people in the team, and 10 of them died in those thrilling minutes. It seems that the land here cannot be dug casually. God knows what ghosts are underneath. I had a hunch that the strange bug was not just some mysterious creature. After it burned 2 people, it split into 3. Was it just a coincidence? I couldn't figure it out. But I couldn't just leave my companion's body outside. I had to compromise. I used a flashlight to illuminate the area. Trevor and the big guy picked up some rubble nearby and covered Logan's body with it, building a simple stone grave for him. During this process, Lonning sat on the ground, motionless, quietly staring at Logan's stone grave. Finally, he couldn't bear it anymore and burst into tears. The sadness suppressed in his heart was released like a flood. I wanted to persuade her, but I really didn't know what to say. I was touched by her crying, and my nose was sore, and my heart was broken. I remembered that last night the squad was still singing military songs in front of the campfire. The loud singing seemed to still echo in my ears. However, most of the comrades today are forever sleeping under the big glacier of Conlon Mountain. I helped Lonning stand up and mourned for Logan and other comrades together. At that time, no matter what the occasion, we had to quote Mao's selected works. I took the lead and read, "The sky is all white, and the march in the snow is more urgent." The other 3 people also responded in unison. "Above the mountain, the wind is flying the red flag to pass the great pass. Only with great sacrifices can we dare to change the sun and the moon into a new sky." Then everyone raised their right fists and swore, "I wish the great leader, Chairman Mao, a long life. Long life, and I wish Chairman Mao's close comrade in arms, Comrade Lin Bao, good health and eternal health. Comrades, please go with peace of mind. Some people's death is lighter than a feather, and some people's death is as heavy as Mount Tai. Dying for the benefit of the people is heavier than Mount Tai. You sacrificed for the benefit of the people. We must inherit the will of the revolutionary martyrs, follow your footprints stained with blood, and carry the proletarian cultural revolution to the end. The final victory will always belong to us workers, peasants, and soldiers." At that time, I was still a new soldier and had never attended a memorial service for my comrades. I didn't know what to say. I just remembered that others said this in meetings. In that situation, there was no difference between appropriate and inappropriate. After a long time, everyone calmed down from the pain and treated the wounds on their bodies. Fortunately, they were all minor injuries and did not affect their movements. They ate a few bites of compressed biscuits and gathered together to discuss what to do next. It was impossible to get out of the valley that was pressed by the snowboard. I estimated that the entire valley might have been filled by the avalanche. Now we can only find another exit. Trevor patted his empty bullet bag, indicating that there were not many bullets left. When we entered the mountain, we had to carry a lot of equipment, so the ammunition was equipped with the minimum amount. Each person only had 3 rifle magazines. After all, it was not a combat mission, and there were no bandits in this area, so we were a little careless in advance. When the avalanche occurred, some ammunition was thrown away. Now each person only has an average of about 20 bullets and a total of 2 grenades. There should be no wild animals underground, and more bullets are useless. Enough for self-defense is enough. There is no dry food at all. We have just eaten everything we can eat. We must find a way to find an exit within 2 days. Otherwise we will starve to death in the underground. Fortunately, Lonning had a compass on him. The depth of the mountain gap was beyond imagination. After walking south for a while, we reached the end. The crack in the ground turned north, and it felt like we were walking under a large glacier. We walked forward in the dark for more than 10 hours. The terrain became lower and lower, and the underground space became larger and larger. Lonning measured it with a barometer. The pressure data was converted into altitude, which was only more than 400 meters, about the same as Sichuan, far lower than the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, with an average altitude of more than 4,000 meters. If we continue walking like this, we are afraid that we will reach the center of the earth. Finally, the terrain flattened out, and I heard the sound of rushing water. It seemed that there was a large underground river not far away. I saw that there was no more downhill road, so I looked around with a flashlight to see if there was a way to go up. Suddenly I found that the light from the flashlight produced many weak reflections on the rock wall, like shining on countless mirror fragments. Lonning exclaimed, "It's Micah." The other 3 heard her say Micah, and they didn't know what it was, but she sounded terrified. Thinking that there was an emergency, they quickly blocked Lonning behind them, took off the Type 56 semi-automatic rifle from their backs as quickly as possible, pulled the bolt open with a few clicks, and prepared to shoot. Lonning asked curiously, "What are you doing?" While holding the gun on guard, I asked Lonning, "What kind of beast is Micah? Where is it?" Lonning said, "It's not an animal. I mean, there are crystals all around. Mica and crystals usually grow in the same stratum." "Ah, there are crystals as expected." Although Lonning is mainly responsible for mapping work, he often works with the geological exploration team and knows a lot about geology and minerals. The crystals that appear around us like glass flakes are a monoclinic crystal system, which can only appear in the Archean 2 quality rock layer. Bay has a large underground reserve, but the mica here is extremely dark in color and is in the shape of a large hexagonal column. The quality is far better than that produced in Lingshu County, Hebei Province in the mainland. From the depth of the color of the mica, we are already in an unimaginable depth. Lonning was attracted by the rare large mica around him. He looked at this piece and that piece. I picked up a small piece and looked at it, but I couldn't see anything special. At this time, I suddenly heard the big guy shouting to Trevor, "Trevor, what are you doing? Get up quickly." I shone the flashlight and saw Trevor count out on the ground in the Tibetan way, with his whole body lying on the ground. What was this guy doing? Who was he count out to? I shone the light in front of him again and couldn't help but gasp. There actually stands a gold-shaped wooden tower made of thousands of giant trees underground. There are countless red flashes on the tower. Looking through those faint flashes, the base of the wooden tower is nearly 200 meters wide, built with mud and stone, and the tower body is made of 1,000-year-old cypress. There are 9 floors in total, and each floor is filled with dried skeletons of men, women, old and young, wearing strange ancient costumes. The wood of each big tree is engraved with Tibetan secret texts. Is this a tomb? With such a huge scale, who built it underground? I went over and pulled Trevor up from his kneeling position. Although our party and army respect ethnic policies, and you, Trevor, are also Tibetan when you are in uniform, you are a member of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. Since you are a communist, you should not play those idealistic tricks, and you are not allowed to engage in religious superstition. The big guy laughed and said, "Okay, August Who, this little guy has the potential to be an instructor." Lanning had been watching Yun Mu, and when he heard the 3 of us arguing, he also came over to watch from a closer distance. I waved my hand to the big guy to stop interrupting him, and continued to ask Trevor, "What kind of tower is this? Do you know the words written on it?" Trevor kept shaking his head. I said, "Why are you bowing to me when I don't know you, kid? Are you scared silly by seeing so many corpses?" Trevor's face was full of panic, and he said in not very fluent Chinese, "This is the place we are afraid of, the 99-story demon tower." I didn't understand the first half of his sentence, but I heard the last 4 words clearly. What is the 9-story demon tower? What is it used for? Isn't it just to bury the dead? Before Trevor could speak, Lanning ran back from the tower on tiptoe and gestured to us to keep quiet. She pointed to the tower behind us and whispered to us, "Don't make a sound to disturb them." I saw her serious expression and knew that there might be trouble, but I didn't know what she was referring to, so I lowered my voice and asked, "What was disturbed? The dead in the tower?" Lanning said very nervously, "No, it was those fire-bearing ladybugs sleeping on the dead bodies, too many to count." After listening to Loning's words, I realized that the dense red flashes on the wooden tower were all emitted by those transparent ladybugs. Although I have some of the fearless spirit of a revolutionary soldier, I feel panic when I think of those strange ladybugs. This creature beyond common sense is too difficult to deal with, and the tragic scene in the valley has left me with too strong a sense of fear. I made a gesture, and the 4 of us retreated silently back to the way we came. Before we took a few steps, Trevor suddenly stepped on empty air and fell into a ditch. This ditch is very hidden and parallel to our route, so we didn't notice it when we came. Although the ditch was only 1 meter deep, Trevor still groaned when he fell. I quickly jumped down to help him. I saw Trevor holding his foot with a painful expression on his face. At this time, Lanning and the big guy also went down to the ditch separately. They shone the flashlight and found that Trevor's foot was pierced by a sharp bone. Even the shoelaces were pierced through the foot, and a transparent hole was made. Blood was pouring out. The ditch was full of layers of various animal bones. The number was too large to estimate. It seemed that this ditch should be a burial pit for animals such as cattle, horses, sheep, and dogs. In order not to alarm the ladybugs in the nearby wooden tower, the big guy covered Trevor's mouth with his hand to prevent him from screaming. I pulled out the bone stuck in his foot. Lanning sprinkled the Yunnan Bai Yao in the first aid kit on his wound and took out a white bandage to help him bandage and stop the bleeding. My hands were covered with blood from Trevor's legs. I wiped it on my military uniform. Suddenly a thought flashed through my mind. This cattle and horse burial pit was dug in a very strange way. It was not square or round, but a long ditch that led directly to the wooden tower where the bodies were placed. This shape was exactly similar to a layout called shock, mentioned in The Secret Art of Feng Shui. If it was exactly the same, then there should be a burial ditch of the same size in a parallel position. The two burial ditches were parallel to each other and sandwiched the wooden tower structure of the tomb, forming a situation of two dragons sucking pearls. According to this inference, the ditch next to it should be some utensils used by the owner of the tomb during his lifetime. I just don't know whether these two burial ditches were artificial or naturally formed. It seems that the latter is more likely. The sound of the river flowing nearby is very loud. Judging from the sound of the rapids of the river, there is an underground river in the northwest, behind the 9-story demon tower, because dragons cannot live without water. If it is really what I expected, then the map of this underground world has long been in my mind, but I need to find another burial trench to confirm my inference. The big guy pushed my shoulder. "Just who? What are you doing?" I was lost in thought just now, and he pushed me back to my senses. I asked Lanning, "Lanning, can you estimate our current position? Where on the map is it?" Lanning used a compass to refer to the map and calculated it. After a moment of silence, he said, "We have been walking northward for more than 10 hours underground. According to our speed, we have already passed the big glacier above our heads and should be out of Kunlun Mountain soon." I told him what I thought just now. If we go back now, we can only return to the mountain gap covered by the avalanche. If my estimate is correct, we should be able to find a way out by walking along the underground river. But to do so, we have to take the risk of passing under the 9-story demon tower. This is a plan to survive from death. The four of us discussed it and felt that although this was full of danger, it was worth the risk. However, I decided to find another burial ditch nearby to verify it. Before the action, I asked Trevor what the 9-story demon tower was. If my estimate is correct, we should be able to find a way out by walking along the underground river. But to do so, we have to take the risk of passing under the 9-story demon tower. This is a plan to survive from death. The four of us discussed it and felt that although this was full of danger, it was worth the risk. However, I decided to find another burial ditch nearby to verify it. Before the action, I asked Trevor what the 9-story demon tower was. Trevor spoke Chinese very hard. After a long time, I finally understood part of it. In his hometown, Zhuwei, there was also a relic exactly the same as this 9-story demon tower. According to legend, this 9-story demon tower was the funeral form of the mausoleum of the kings of the ancient demon kingdom. When the demon kingdom was destroyed, the tomb had been destroyed by the hero king Gasar. Only a pile of rotten wooden frames and narrative poems passed down by the herdsmen were left on the Tibetan plateau, praising King Gesar's unparalleled military exploits, like the sun from generation to generation. When Tibetan herdsmen passed by these relics, they would pay homage and sing epics. This was not because they were afraid of the mausoleum of the king of the demon kingdom, but to express their respect for King Gesar. Trevor also talked about some religious things, but I couldn't understand it. I didn't know whether the ghost-like insects were the resting spirits in the tomb. I left Lonning and the other 3 people where they were and crawled forward. More than 100 meters away from the cattle and horse burial ditch, there was indeed another burial ditch, which was full of ancient leather boots, ancient Tibetan wood pieces, ancient Mongolian wood slips, painted wood pieces, gold ornaments, wooden plates, wooden wings, wooden birds and animals, bronze utensils, food, and a large amount of silk and other burial objects. It seems that my inference was correct. The underground river behind the 9-story demon tower must be connected to the outside world. So I sneaked back to the animal burial ditch to call the other 3 to act. I led the way, and the big man was behind me with a gun, followed by Trevor. He had a serious stab wound on his foot, and Lonning supported him to walk from behind. The scale of the 9-story demon tower was very large. The underground cave was originally very wide, but the tower and the large mica on both sides almost blocked the road to the north. Only very narrow places on both sides could barely pass. We passed under the wooden tower with trepidation. When we saw the ladybugs flashing with flames in the tower, we felt that our hearts were about to jump out of our throats. In the 200 meters under the tower, the distance of each step seemed so far. After finally passing the 9-story demon tower and walking less than 200 steps forward, my feet suddenly softened, as if I had stepped on some huge animal. I shone a flashlight and saw a huge reptile I had never seen before under my feet. It had a long tongue, and its skin color was very similar to the color of the ground. It looked a bit like a monitor lizard, and its appearance was very similar to that of a crocodile, but it did not have such a rough skin. Moreover, its front snout was not as sharp as that of a lizard, but was rounder. Its tongue was like a snake, red and long, with a fork in the front. Its skin was dark and covered with large white round scars. From the appearance alone, it could basically be said to be an oversized frog with a long tail. I have never feared anything in my life, except for this kind of disgusting thing. I was so scared that I shrank behind the big guy. The big guy also saw this strange animal. He might have felt the same as me and was also shocked. Perhaps the only companion a soldier can rely on is a rifle. He instinctively raised his gun and shot. With a burst of shots, the reptile twisted a few times and died. At this time, Lonning, who was walking at the end, came over, looked at the dead animal on the ground, sighed, and said to us, "This is a salamander living underground. It feeds on insects and mayflies and does not hurt people. I don't feel bad about killing an animal. What I worry about is whether the big guy's rash shooting will wake up the insects in the tower. Damn it, if people are unlucky, even drinking cold water will get stuck in their teeth." The ladybugs in the 9-story demon tower were obviously startled by the gunshots, and countless blue fireballs like bright lights lit up. The entire underground space was illuminated blue by the flames, and the wooden tower was also set on fire. The fire grew bigger and bigger, and hundreds of fireballs rushed towards us. Despite such a big fire, we could not feel any heat. Instead, we felt cold and our teeth were chattering.